The forest was endless as I dragged my aching feet forward. Days passed since they threw me out of my own pack, maybe 3 or 4. I lost count. My left foot throbbed because of a deep gash from a sharp rock 2 days ago which never stopped bleeding properly. The bandage I tore from the hem of my dress was now soaked through and filthy. My simple white dress was ripped by branches and thorns that seemed determined to punish me further. Every breath hurts. My body felt like it was burning from the inside, a slow fire, building low in my belly that I knew all too well. Heat. It was coming. I could feel the first waves, cramping pain in my abdomen. The flesh crawling up my neck, the way my scent was starting to sweeten and thicken despite how weak and broken I was. An omega in heat, alone in the woods, with no pack, no suppressants, no shelter. It was a death sentence. Disgrace, my father's voice echoed in my head. I stumbled, my hand catching a rough trunk to steady myself. A twig snapped somewhere. Behind me I wasn't alone. My legs were moving faster before my brain could process. My injured foot screamed in protest. Tears blurred my vision. I could hear footsteps now, closing in far too easily. Whoever it was, little Omega, a deep, cold voice called out, echoing between the trees. I kept scrambling backward on my hands and knees, dirt and leaves sticking to my torn dress. Stop moving, he warned, or I won't waste a second to pierce this through your heart. I froze instantly, sitting there on the forest floor with my hands pressed into the dirt. I pushed harder, ignoring the way my legs trembled and the sharp cramps twisting in my gut. One moment I was sprinting, and the next I slammed straight into a chest that felt like rock. The force knocked me off balance, and I fell on my $1. I looked up, and my breath hitched. Red, glowing eyes stared down at me. I scrambled back, my heart hammering against my ribs. He was tall and broad, dressed in dark leather that blended with the shadows. A quiver of arrows peeked over his shoulder. And in one swift motion, he drew one and aimed it directly at my chest. You run awfully fast for an Omega, who's looking half dead. It made me flinch hard. In please. The sound that left me was broken and pathetic even to my own ears, but that was exactly how I felt. Begging an alpha not to hurt me. What please? He asked, still holding the arrow trained on me. Don't hurt me. I'm just lost. Lost. He let out a humorless laugh and finally lowered the arrow, sliding it back into his quiver. He began circling me slowly, like I was wounded prey. And maybe I was. Definitely, in the deep woods. Miles from any settled territory. You smell like a pack wolf. Little Omega. Who sent you? Was it the council? Or are you just the bait for a boring little ambush? And no one sent me. I was. They threw me out. Please, I sobbed, shrinking away from his intense gaze. Keep lying. He stopped circling and lowered himself into a crouch right in front of me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. I quickly gathered the torn edges of my skirt, trying to cover my exposed knees from his piercing stare. I've been running a long time, sweetheart. I know every trick in the book. You're going to tell me the truth, or I might just leave you here for the real monsters to find. He paused. Or maybe I'll just keep you. All for myself. His words sent ice through my veins. I shook my head frantically, tears streaming down my face. He sat down fully now, right in front of me on the forest floor. His long legs stretched out casually, as if we were having a normal conversation and not me fighting for my life. His red-tinged eyes raked over me. Slowly my torn dress, my trembling hands, the way I clutched my skirt like it could protect me. Then something shifted in his expression. He tilted his head, inhaling deeply, his nostrils flared. I could see the moment his eyes sharpened, when he realized I was close to my heat. My scent grew thicker, SW33ter, more desperate. Despite how broken and exhausted I was, the cramps in my belly were getting sharper, and I could feel the first hints of SL*CK, making my TH1 gas, CC1 key under the ruined fabric. Oh, he murmured, now I see. Before I could react, he reached out and cupped my jaw with one large, rough hand, forcing my face up, so I had no choice but to meet his glowing eyes. He leaned in closer, his breath brushing against my L1Ps. Look at you, shaking, smelling so F3CKing SW33T already. Heat's right on the edge, isn't it? Poor little Omega, all alone. Dr. 1 PP1NG and N33DY in my woods. His thumb stroked my cheek in a mocking caress, makes me want to pounce. Pin you down, rip what's left of that torn dress off you, and give your body exactly what it's begging for. I water one empered, but the sound pathetic even to my own ears. My hands were trying to push him away, but it was of no use. He was strong. I was terrified, yet his words weren't disgusting me the way they should. Instead, they made the fire in my B3LLY burn HO tour. I hated how my heat turned me into something weak and desperate. He was disgusting, looking at me with raw hunger in those glowing eyes, and yet a traitorous part of me wanted him to do exactly what he said. To take me right here, to F1LL me, to make the aching N33D stop. Tell me who sent you, he growled, and maybe I'll be nice. Maybe I'll lay you down gently, ease that ache between your legs until you're shaking for a different reason. Or maybe, I'll just take what your SC3NT is offering and KNOT you so deep, you forget your own name. I tried one last time to push him away. My hand flew up, aiming to slap his face, but in my weakened state, it only connected with his chin. His eyes flashed with anger. In an instant, his grip shifted from my jaw to the front of my torn shirt, fingers twisting into the fabric. He yanked me forward hard, pulling me flush against his broad chest, until there was barely any space left between us. Bad move, little Omega, he snarled, voice rough with irritation. Real bad move. I should bend you over my knee right now, and the rest of his words blurred. The pain in my foot, the exhaustion from days of walking, the crushing fear, and the overwhelming fire of my oncoming heat finally crashed over me all at once. My vision tunneled, black spots dancing at the edges. My body went limp in his grip. I lost consciousness, collapsing forward into his chest as everything faded to darkness. When I woke up next, I was losing my mind. Everything burned. A deep THROB being ache pulsed low in my B3LLY, SPR3 adding D0 when between. My Thwon gaze in waves that made cubic meter watt tower, 1 emper and twist against the Sh3 Omega heats were always brutal. At home, the pack had quiet rooms, suppressants if you were lucky, and sometimes an understanding beta or mated alpha who could sit outside the door and talk you through the worst cramps. You still suffered alone most of the time. Fever, endless need, your body begging for something real. But you survived this time. I didn't know if I would. The room was small and dim, with wooden walls, but the entire space smelled like dark pine and smoke, making my head spin worse. I wanted more of it, needed it. I rolled off the bed on shaky legs, my injured foot barely registering pain. The only thing covering me was an oversized robe that smelled faintly of him too. I stumbled to the door and yanked on the handle. Locked. A broken sob tore from my throat. No, please. I pounded weakly on the wood. Tears slipped down my fever-flushed cheeks. I was going to die like this. Burning, empty, alone in a stranger's house. Then I noticed the other door. I pushed it open on trembling legs and was instantly slammed with a much stronger wave of his scent. This room smelled even more like him. His clothes, his belongings. My omega instincts took over completely. Without thinking, I dragged everything out. Arms full, inhaling deeply, like a starving thing. So good, it smells so good. I'm Zero and Ned to myself. I piled it all onto the bed in the small room. His shirts, a thick cloak, soft furs arranging into a nest. Please, I need more. It was not enough as I deeply inhaled the scent. I looked down at myself, clean bandages wrapped around my injured foot and the cuts on my leg. I stripped off the robe. Under it was a thin layer of gown that was dirty. Whoever made me wear this robe didn't remove my dress completely. It left me a little relieved. I removed the dirty layer completely, leaving myself bare for a moment. I grabbed one of his clean black shirts from the nest and pulled it over my head. It swallowed me, falling to mid-thigh, his scent now directly against my skin. It helped a little. I curled deeper into the nest when the faint metallic clink of a chain made me tense. Then the door opened. I flinched hard, scrambling deeper into the nest, pulling his shirt down as far as it would go. He was here, the alpha who had scared me, threatened me, caught me when I fainted. He stood in the doorway, tall, his red-tinged eyes narrowing the second he took in the scene. His expression shifted from cautious to furious in an instant. What the fuck do you think you're doing? He snarled. He stepped inside, slamming the door behind him with enough force to make the walls shake. His gaze raked over the bed, over me. His scent spiked. Dark pine and smoke turning sharper, angrier, mixed with something wild that made my omega instincts whine for him even harder. You little thief. I bring you in here half dead, bandage your pathetic foot and cuts, give you a place to sleep. And the first thing you do when you wake is tear through my belongings like some wild animal. I'm sorry. My hands fisted the hem of his shirt, pulling it down uselessly. I couldn't stop. It smelled so good, I needed. Shut up. His jaw clenched tight, fists balled at his sides like he was fighting every instinct not to reach for me. His eyes glowed brighter, pupils blown wide. My scent was clearly affecting him too. You think you can just nest in my things and expect me to take pity on you? I'm not your pack alpha. I stayed quiet, biting my lip hard enough to taste blood. I embarrassed myself enough already. He was clearly furious, and deep down I knew what I did was wrong. Tearing through his clothes, building a nest like I had any right to his scent, but I couldn't control it. Where is your mate, or whoever usually helps you through your heat? He asked, trying to calm himself down. I shook my head slowly, tears slipping down my fever-flushed cheeks. I had no mate, no alpha who would take care of me. Realization dawned on his face. You can't be serious. He let out a harsh breath, running a hand through his hair. Why the hell would you wander around the woods alone when you knew your H3 was coming? Are you stupid, or just suicidal? The question ripped open every wound. I wanted to explain everything, to tell him it wasn single quotes to Noi, but I had no energy left. I wanted to cry, but I even done that enough. He exhaled, clearly frustrated. He walked toward the bed. I tensed, expecting him to yell more, but he didn't even look at my body as he tossed the packet onto the nest near my legs. Take these, they'll help dull the worst of it. And keep your voice low. We're in the middle of the jungle. If I get caught because of your scent or your noises, I swear to the moon goddess, you won't see the next daylight. The door clicked shut behind him, and I heard the faint clink of a chain being secured. From the outside, locking me in again. The next few days of my heat blurred. I don't remember much clearly. Whenever I woke up from the endless cycle of aching need and restless sleep, the room was always cleaned. The clothes and blankets were replaced with fresh ones while I was unconscious. A tray of simple food, bread, dried meat, fresh water, and sometimes warm soup sat on the small table near the bed, always within reach. I never saw him once. I was grateful and devastated at the same time. By the time the heat finally started to fade, leaving me weak, shaky, and hollow, I still didn't got a single glimpse of those glowing red eyes or broad shoulders. The heat finally broke on what felt like the fifth morning. My mind was clear for the first time in what felt like forever. The door wasn't locked this time. I pushed it open and stepped out. The cabin was small, but surprisingly beautiful in its own rugged way. Wooden walls, a stone fireplace, simple but sturdy furniture, and soft morning light filtering through the windows. I wandered quietly through the space, bare feet padding across the wooden floor. A small kitchen area, a table with 2 chairs, and another door that probably led outside. I pushed that one open too, and stepped onto the narrow porch. That's when I saw him. He was standing a little distance away, back partially turned to me, bow drawn tight as he aimed an arrow toward the trees. He released the arrow, and a satisfied sound left his mouth as he walked towards it. A few minutes later he returned, carrying a rabbit by the ears. His steps slowed the moment his eyes landed on me standing by the cabin door. Are you hungry? He asked over his shoulder as he just walked past me inside the cabin and disappeared into the kitchen. I hesitated, then nodded. Yes, double quotes. He didn't say anything else. Inside he set the rabbit on the counter and began preparing it. Make yourself useful and help me, he said flatly, not even looking at me. Make yourself useful and help me, he said flatly, not even looking at me. I blinked. God, he was a jerk, wasn't he? The heat fog had lifted, and my usual fire was slowly building back up in my chest. In what do you need? I asked, my voice just as icy as his. He didn't even glance up. Cut the vegetables. There's a knife and some roots and greens on the table. I walked over without another word, picked up the knife, and started chopping. We stood side by side at the narrow counter. The space was small, so our shoulders brushed once, then again when he reached for something beside me. 30 minutes later, the smell of roasting meat and simmering stew filled the entire cabin. It was so good, my stomach growled loudly. I couldn't help leaning over to peer inside the pot, inhaling deeply. I couldn't wait to eat. We ate in silence at the small wooden table. I could feel his eyes on me the whole time, watching every bite I took. What? He looked up from his plate, tearing into the meat with his teeth like an animal. You aren't expecting to stay here, are you? Because if that's what you're thinking, you can forget it. I don't run a shelter for stray omegas. Eat, clean up, and get out. The woods are clear enough now. You really are cold, aren't you? I told you the truth. I was thrown out of my pack. I had nowhere else to go, but sure. Kick me out the second I can stand on my own 2 feet. He dropped the bone he was gnawing on and leaned forward slightly, eyes narrowing. I don't not owe you anything, Omega. I already did more than most rogues would. I could have left you to die out there. That's more kindness than you'll get from anyone else in these woods. I never asked for your kindness, I whispered bitterly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Get out before I regret ever helping you. I clenched my teeth but stayed quiet for a moment, staring down at the half-eaten food on my plate. You're a rogue. You know how it feels to have no home. He glared at me across the table, his red-tinged eyes hardening like stone. Don't even try to guilt-trip me. I don't believe a word you say. Are you listening to me? Just because I helped you doesn't mean I believe that bullshit tea story of yours. Why would I even lie to you? What possible reason would I have to make all of this up? I was half dead like you said when you found me. My foot was bleeding, my dress was torn to shreds, and I was going into heat in the middle of nowhere. If I was some spy or bait, like you keep thinking, don't you think I would have come up with a better lie? He leaned back in his chair, arms crossing over his broad chest. People lie for all kinds of reasons. Maybe you're running from something worse. Maybe your pack sent you here to sniff out rogue territory. Maybe you're just looking for an alpha stupid enough to take pity on you and give you a safe place to hide. I've seen worse tricks. I slammed my palm on the table. Then why did you even bother saving me? Why bandage my wounds? Why feed me? Why let me stay through my heat if you think I'm such a threat? Because I'm not a monster. Finding a dying Omega in the woods and leaving her there is different from letting her move in. I did what any decent person would do. That doesn't mean I trust you. And it sure as hell doesn't mean you get to stay. I was done. My appetite died instantly. The food that had smelled so good now tasted like nothing. Fine. I jumped down from the stool and stormed back into the small room where I spent my days. Just like he said, I showered quickly, dried off and put on the clothes he laid out for me. A simple dark tunic that was too big and a pair of worn but sturdy pants. They covered me completely, which was all that mattered. I didn't want to become easy prey for any wild animal or worse out there, even if it meant wearing the stupid clothes he gave me. When I stepped back out, something new was placed on the bed that hadn't been there before. I walked over and picked it up. It was a small cloth bundle, heavy with food, dried meat, bread, some fruits, and a water skin. It looked like he had given me the remaining food and whatever else he could spare. Take this. It will help you stay alive until you find another place. But I thought I was lying. Wouldn't I just go back to my pack and snitch on you? He opened his mouth to reply, but I didn't wait. I turned on my heel and walked straight past him toward the cabin door, leaving the bundle of food sitting untouched on the bed. I was being petty. I knew that, but right now I didn't care. If I was going to die in the forest, then let me die. It wasn't like there was anyone waiting for me anyway. I lost count of the hours again. Hunger, thirst, lack of sleep turned everything blurry and heavy. I kept moving anyway, stumbling through the trees, hiding whenever I heard rustling or distant howls. I was losing mind. It wasn't until the multiple scents hit me that I realized I was in real trouble. I spun to the side to run, heart slamming against my ribs, but it was already too late. 3 large brown wolves burst from the underbrush and landed in front of me, blocking every path. They were huge, bigger than normal wolves, their eyes glowing with hunger. As they stared at me down, I froze. There was no chance I would make it out alive. One of them snarled low and pounced. I fell backward with a cry, my head cracking hard against the ground. The wolf landed on top of me, heavy paws pinning my shoulders down, teeth bared inches from my throat. Its claws raked across my collarbone that tore through the fabric of the tunic and into my skin. Blood welled up instantly, hot and sticky. I squeezed my eyes shut. This was it. I was going to die here, alone in the woods, just like I feared. I wished I had a mate, someone who would come running, someone who would make these wolves think twice, someone strong enough to protect me, but there was no one. I was just an Omega who had been thrown away, and now I was going to die, the same way. A deep, thunderous growl ripped through the forest. The weight on my chest suddenly lifted as the brown wolf was yanked backward with a yelp. I opened my eyes, gasping. A massive black wolf slammed into the 3 attackers. He had big dark fur with heavy muscle, red eyes blazing with rage. The 3 brown wolves turned on him at once, snarling and snapping, but he was faster. One by one he tore their head off, biting deep in their neck until they were limp into the ground. The forest fell silent, except for my ragged breathing and the distant drip of blood. I stayed hidden behind the thick tree, peeking out with wide eyes, my hand pressed to the bleeding scratches on my collarbone. His glowing eyes scanned the area until they locked onto me. The massive black wolf stopped a few feet away, red eyes still burning. I knew who it was immediately. Those red eyes were impossible to forget. He lowered his massive body to the ground and got down on his knees, clearly indicating for me to get on his back. I hesitated, my legs were shaking too badly to run, and the pain in my collarbone was getting worse. I pushed away from the tree and stumbled toward him. Grabbing fistfuls of his thick fur, I climbed onto his back, pressing my body low against him. The moment I was settled, he took off. I yelped at the sudden speed nearly threw me off. I gripped his fur tighter, arms wrapped around his neck, thighs squeezing his sides as hard as I could. I buried my face against his fur, breathing in that familiar dark pine and smoke scent mixed with the blood. It was strangely comforting now, even after everything. It didn't take long before the trees thinned and the small wooden cabin came into view. He slowed only when we reached the porch, lowering himself carefully so I could slide off his back. My legs buckled the second my feet touched the ground. I would have fallen if he hadn't shifted back to human form right beside me. Strong arms caught me before he stood there naked, breathing hard. Blood still streaked across his chest and arms from the fight. My eyes widened and I stared at his broad shoulders, defined chest, ridged abs, powerful thighs. Schwan T, he was gorgeous. Heat or no heat, it was nearly impossible not to notice how hot he was. Seems like the moon goddess really took time to crave him out. Stop staring, he said, snapping me out of it. Heat flooded my face. He quickly grabbed a cloak from the porch hook and threw it around his waist, tying it loosely. Without another word, he stepped closer and scooped me up into his arms again. What are you doing? I yelped. You're bleeding, he said flatly. I almost forgotten about the deep claw marks across my collarbone in the rush of everything. He carried me back inside and straight into his room and placed me gently on the edge of his bed. Then he disappeared for a moment and returned with a small wooden kit. He knelt in front of me, eyes fixed on the blood-soaked tunic. Can I remove this? He asked, fingers already hovering at my hem. I nodded silently. He had seen me in less modest form. He tugged the upper layer off carefully, peeling the fabric away until the wounds on my collarbone were fully exposed. The movement left me bare from the waist up, just the cloth covering my prized possession. His gaze stayed locked on the 3 angry red gashes, brows slightly furrowed in concentration as he started cleaning the blood with a damp cloth. I couldn't stop staring at his face now. Up close like this, he looked different, softer in the dim light. No, still sharp and cold, but there was something almost careful in the way his fingers worked, until he opened his mouth again. Stop staring, he muttered without looking up. I looked away quickly, cheeks burning. What were you doing there? He paused, cloth hovering over my skin. Wherein, you know what I'm talking about. Were you stalking me? I was there to hunt. Don't get ahead of yourself, Omega. Yn. Right, convenient timing for a hunt. Convenient for you, apparently. If I hadn't shown up, those 3 would have made you their dinner. Yn. Does that bother you if I had? He stopped moving for a second, then slowly looked up at me. What do you want me to say? I saw someone in trouble and couldn't let them die. I'm not that heartless. Yn. But you surely do act like one. It's called survival. I can't be welcoming anyone who shows up sick or in need. I would die in a minute if I started taking care of everyone who wandered into my territory. Yn. Yet you are taking care of me, I pointed out. He exhaled through his nose. Unfortunately, yes. I don't know why I'm doing this, and I saved you from those wolves. That would make me no better than the pack that threw you away. I swallowed, feeling the accidental brush of his knuckles against the top of my BR3 asked again. As he adjusted the cloth, we both tensed. I looked away toward the wall. He cleared his throat. So you're only helping me to feel better about yourself. How noble. You're really pushing it, Omega. Most people in your position would shut up and be grateful. I'm not most people, I muttered, wincing as he started wrapping the clean bandage around my shoulder and collarbone. And stop calling me Omega like it's an insult. I have a name. He didn't ask for it. Instead, he kept wrapping, and when he was done, he walked towards the door. You can stay one more night, until the bleeding stops and you can walk properly. After that, you're on your own again. I pulled the tunic back over my chest, suddenly very aware of how exposed I had been the whole time. One more night. Chen POV, sitting alone on the wooden bench in front of the fire, a half-empty bottle of soju dangling. From my fingers, years of living by myself, silence was my only companion, and I grown used to it. But now, there was another heartbeat in my home. Another scent. I was irritated as hell at first when I found her stumbling through my woods, reeking of oncoming heat and pack scent. Every instinct screamed that she was trouble, sent by one of the nearby packs to lure or kill a rogue like me. That's why I was so pricked to her. That's why I'd thrown her out right after her heat. But the moment she walked away without taking the food I left for her, guilt started gnawing at me like a damn parasite. I kept thinking about her condition. I never felt that pull toward anyone before. Never, but her scent. Foo 3K. It drove me insane. I didn't remember ever losing this much control over a stupid scent. I wanted nothing more than to pin her down and take her until that scent was completely mixed with mine. It takes me nearly all my willpower not to unlock that damn chain of my bedroom door and help her out. My wolf was going feral with need, but I couldn't take advantage of her weak state. When I was sure she wouldn't be asking for an alpha if it's not for her specific state. I shook my head and drank again. When I went out to hunt that day, I caught her scent on the wind. I followed her for hours, watching her stumble and hide from every little noise. I didn't know why I did it. I should have turned back. But while I got distracted by the deer and was hunting it down, I heard the growls and her scream. My wolf took over before I could even think. Now she was still here. One night had become 2, then 3, and I hadn't asked her to leave again. She hadn't asked to stay either. We both knew she had nowhere else to go. Soft footsteps approached from behind. I didn't turn around. I already knew it was her. She walked over and sat down on the bench beside me, drinking alone. Who broke your heart? I stared into the fire. It was everywhere. Jungkook, why are you awake at this time? You're awake too? I could ask you the same thing, Jungkook. I asked first, so you have to answer. Isn't it obvious? She pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapping her arms around them. I can't sleep. A beat of silence passed. Then she spoke again. Give me some too. I finally glanced at her. She was wearing one of my old shirts again. The sleeves too long on her. The bandage on her collarbone peeked out from the collarbone. Jungkook, how old are you? What if you're underage? She smiled, and it did something to my heart. I'm flattered that you think I'm underage, but I'm 23. I took another sip, then narrowed my eyes. What if you're lying? She looked at me directly, the firelight dancing in her eyes. Again with that, I'm not lying. I have no reason to. It's not like I'll stay here forever, that I need to lie to you. I stayed quiet. The idea of her leaving suddenly didn't feel right. It should have. Having her here was risky. Her scent, her presence, the way my wolf kept pushing me to get closer. It was alarming how quickly I was getting used to it. I didn't like how much I didn't hate it. She reached over and gently took the bottle from my hand, her fingers brushing against my nether spark. We both pretended it didn't happen. She took a small sip, made a face at the burn, then handed it back. You still don't believe me, do you? She asked softly, staring into the fire. I leaned back against the wall, eyes on the flames. I want to, but trust doesn't come easy out here. She stayed quiet for a moment, then asked, and why is that? I didn't know why I was even answering her. Maybe it was the late hour, or the soju, or the way her scent kept wrapping around me like it belonged here. She looked harmless. Right now, small, tired, wrapped in my oversized shirt. My wolf had stopped seeing her as a threat days ago. Jungkook, things happened back in my old pack, I said, keeping it short. I was ordered to be killed, but I managed to run away. I've been living like this for 6 years now, moving from place to place, never staying too long. I got baited a lot in the beginning. Almost died. More than once because I trusted the wrong people. That's the main reason I don't want to trust anyone easily. She nodded slowly. I understand. I took another sip and passed the bottle back to her. Jungkook, why did you get thrown out of your pack? She lifted the bottle and drank a little more. I watched her shoulders slowly loosen as the soju worked its way through her. I knew that feeling well. Sometimes you needed something to take the edge off before the words would come out. There was this alpha Minho. He's married, but that never stopped him. He sleeps with whoever he wants. His wife knows everything, but she stays quiet and acts like the perfect mate. He tried to corner me so many times. Each time I managed to get away. From him. I hated him with my whole body. He was disgusting. He thought he was some kind of god, that every Omega should fall at his feet just because he was alpha. One day he pushed too far. I slapped him hard across the face. His ego couldn't take it, so he made up a story. He told everyone that I had been seducing him, trying to steal him away from his wife. And when he refused me, I got so angry that I tried to poison her. His loyal friends backed him up, of course. They said they saw everything. My own parents believed them. They called me a disgrace to the family and the pack. They threw me out the same day. She let out a short, tired laugh that didn't sound happy at all. Mind you, I hated that man with every part of me. I never wanted him near me, but in their eyes, I became the shameless Omega who tried to ruin a good alpha's marriage. They don't even give me a chance to defend myself. I stayed quiet for a long time, staring at the fire while her words settled in my chest. The dot story sounded ugly and familiar. Pack politics, powerful alphas who couldn't handle rejection, innocent people getting crushed under their egos. I had seen it before. I'm sorry that happened to you. The words felt strange coming out of my mouth. I wasn't used to saying them. She looked at me, surprised for a second, then gave a small shrug. It's done now. We sat like that for a while longer, side by side, passing the bottle, not saying much more. So what are you planning to do? The alpha was standing at the kitchen counter, chopping vegetables. I was on the edge of the table a few feet away, an apple in one hand and one of his old books in the other, slowly flipping through the pages while I wandered around the small space. What do you mean? You can't stay here forever like this. Things can't keep going the way they are. I felt a sharp sting in my chest. I lowered the apple and closed the book with a soft thud. You're so eager to get rid of me. Does my presence annoy you that much? If I was eager, I would have thrown you out the day your scars healed. But I didn't. I crossed my arms, the memory of that night flashing in my mind. You did throw me out, the first time, right after my heat. Guilt crossed his features for a brief second there and gone so fast. I almost missed it. He sighed and set the knife down, wiping his hands on a cloth. That was different. Now I know you're not trying to kill me in my sleep. I watched him carefully. Then why bring it up now? He leaned against the counter, arms folding over his chest. Because you need a plan. You can't keep hiding here forever, and I can't keep pretending this is normal. I've been rogue for 6 years. I know how this life works. You don't. Sooner or later, you'll have to decide where you go from here. I don't have a plan. I don't know this forest at all. If you know someplace, somewhere safe I could stay, even for a little while, I'd appreciate it. You've been rogue longer than I've been alone. You know the safe spots, the dangerous ones. He stayed quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he gave a single nod. Fine, I'll think about it. There are a few neutral areas farther north. Thank you. He looked up, eyebrows slightly raised. For what? I hesitated, suddenly feeling a little shy under his gaze. I set the apple down on the table and shrugged. Even though we didn't meet in the best circumstances, still thanks for taking care of me, giving me your clothes, sharing your food, cleaning my wounds, and everything you did for me. Minus the jerk part. You were not completely insufferable. Company. He narrowed his eyes at me, but the corner of his mouth twitched. A low chuckle escaped his lips. It was the first real laugh I had heard from him, and it made something warm flutter in my chest. That's the nicest thing I've said to me since you got here. I couldn't help smiling a little wider. Well, you did threaten to shoot an arrow through my heart the first time we met, and you yelled at me for nesting in your clothes. So not completely insufferable is actually pretty high praise. You're lucky I didn't follow through with that arrow. Most people who trespass on my territory don't get second chances or third chances. I leaned against the counter, watching him work. Then why did I get them? I couldn't leave you to die there alone. I told you before. It's just hard to believe that's the only reason. He didn't reply after that. He simply acted like I wasn't standing right there, his focus on the vegetables in front of him. Do you have a mate? I asked suddenly. His hands paused for half a second. No. I tilted my head. Have you ever had one? No. What about your ruts? How do you handle them alone out here? He set the knife down slowly and turned to face me fully, one eyebrow raised, asking such personal questions, are we? I shrugged, trying to sound casual, even though my cheeks were already warming. Well, you saw me at my worst. Might as well share to make it less embarrassing. He sighed. I always spend them alone. I bit my lip, unable to hide the surprise on my face. He noticed immediately. What, you don't believe me? I never said that. I replied quickly. Then why are you looking at me like that? I wasn't looking. I was just zoning out. My face was getting hotter by the second. I could feel the blush spreading across my cheeks and down my neck. Yeah, that's why you're turning the shade of a tomato. I groaned and covered my face with my hands for a second. You are so annoying. Go back to being a jerk. That was better. A low chuckle escaped him, the second one I'd heard today. Careful. You keep insulting me and I might actually throw you out this time. I peeked at him through my fingers. You won't. He raised an eyebrow. And why is that? Because you just admitted you couldn't leave me to die twice. So clearly you have a soft spot somewhere. Under all that rogue attitude. He shook his head, but I caught the faint smirk before he turned back to the pot on the stove. Keep telling yourself that, little Omega. I smiled despite myself and picked up the apple again, taking another bite. The kitchen felt warmer now. The tension between us shifting into something lighter, and for some reason that made me feel a tiny bit hopeful. The next few weeks passed in a strange, quiet rhythm. He decided to teach me how to hunt properly before I left for the neutral territories. We found the place deep down. I was sad that I have to leave. We were definitely getting comfortable, and he was. Not a bad company. Today we were deep in the woods, the late afternoon sun filtering through the trees. I stood with the bow in my hands, arrow already nocked. Let me help you, he said, stepping closer behind me. I've done it before, I replied proudly, adjusting my stance. I'm fast with a bow. He didn't argue, just watched with crossed arms. Have you hunted openly before? Once or twice, my parents never let me. According to them, Omegas should only look pretty for their alphas. I guess I accepted my fate pretty quickly. If only I had known that even after trying to please them my whole life, I'd still end up here. I would have learned some actual survival instincts. It's not your fault. The familiar sting of shame rising in my chest. Look, your target is right in front of you. Double quotes. I took a steady breath, aimed, and released. The arrow flew clean and fast, striking the small deer straight through the heart. It dropped instantly. He gave a low whistle. Good job, little Omega. I turned to him with a frown. Why do you keep calling me little Omega? I bet we're the same age. How old are you? I choked on air, eyes widening. Damn. You're old, he raised an eyebrow, but I couldn't stop myself from teasing. You're practically dangling your feet in the grave already. His mouth opened in surprise. You little she. I didn't wait for him to finish. I laughed and started running through the trees, dodging branches and leaping over roots. He took off after me immediately. Get back here. We ran for a while, both of us getting out of breath fast. My laughter echoed between the trees as I weaved around trunks, but he was faster. Just when I thought I had a good lead, his strong arm wrapped around my waist from behind and yanked me back. I yelped as he spun me around and pressed me against the nearest tree, his body caging me in. We were both breathing heavily, chests rising and falling in sync. His hands moved to my sides and started tickling me mercilessly. Stop. I burst out laughing, squirming against him. Stop. He didn't stop, grin on his face as he tortured me with tickles. I laughed so hard my eyes watered, twisting and pushing at his chest, but he was solid muscle and didn't budge. Eventually, the tickling slowed, our laughter faded into heavy breathing. We realized how close we were. My back pressed firmly to the tree, his body flush against mine, one of his thighs slotted between my legs. His hands were still on my waist, gripping lightly. Our faces were only inches apart. I could feel every inch of him, the heat of his body, the rapid rise and fall of his chest. The way his scent suddenly grew darker and thicker. His red-tinged eyes dropped to my lips, then back up to my eyes. His grip on my waist tightened, fingers digging in just enough to make me gasp softly. Shwan-ti, he rasped, the word vibrating deep in his throat. His mouth crashed against hers, and the K1SS was anything but gentle, fueled by months of isolation and weeks of unspoken tension. It was hungry and desperate. She wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him closer until there wasn't a single inch of air left between them, her fingers tangling in his hair to keep him there. When they finally broke apart, she immediately buried her face in the crook of his neck. Well, that was, she started, her voice breathy and trailing off as she tried to find a word that wasn't too revealing. Long overdue, he finished for me. His hand came up to grip my chin, forcing me to look at him. Almost a whole damn month of you walking around my cabin in my shirts, smelling like heaven and driving me insane. I'm surprised I lasted this long. I let out a weak laugh, still hiding my burning face against him. But even this I couldn't shake off the sadness. This complicates so many things, and I was supposed to leave soon. Yeah, you were. He pulled back just enough to look down at me. Doesn't feel like you should anymore, does it? I bit my lip, heart racing for an entirely new reason. I don't know everything, just got a lot more complicated. He brushed a strand of hair away from my face, his thumb lingering on my cheek. I told myself I wouldn't do this, that keeping you here was dangerous, that I don't do this. He gestured vaguely between us, but the thought of you walking out of the cabin tomorrow, he shook his head. It doesn't sit right, not anymore. I swallowed, looking up at him. So what are we doing? A sudden realization hit me, making my eyes widen. I just realized, I don't know your name. He stared at me for a second, the same realization dawning on his face. We are living under the same roof for more than a month. He had seen me through my heat, patched my wounds, fed me, chased me through the woods, and just kissed me like the world was ending, and we still didn't know each other's names. A short, disbelieving laugh escaped him. I couldn't help but laugh too, the sound bubbling out of me, even though my cheeks were still flushed, and my lips tingled. Sh1T, we really are something. I bit my lip, still smiling. Well, what's your name? Jungkook, he said, voice warm for once. Chen Jungkook. He looked down at me expectantly, one eyebrow raised. I grinned. I'm in, he repeated, like he was tasting the name. His thumb brushed over my bottom lip. Nice to finally meet you. YN. Double quotes. We both laughed again, soft, awkward, but strangely sweet, after everything we've been through. So what are we doing, Jungkook? Jungkook, I don't know. He exhaled slowly, forehead still resting against mine. Seems like we have to postpone that departure. For one more night, I smiled, my fingers playing with the collar of his shirt. One more night, he nodded, eyes darkening again as they dropped to my lips. One more night, but we both knew it wasn't going to be just one more night anymore.